Neighbors. It's been so peaceful without tenants in Unit 37. Something about that apartment always attracts such surly people. Loud, rude, unneighborly. This used to be a community. Now it's more of a ghost inn. I liked going to the market first thing in the morning on Thursdays. That's when they deliver the fresh weekly stock, and all my favorite vendors know to save me their best batch. I didn't used to be able to afford this. Strange to think how now that I don't go to work, I am able to spend all this money. But life is in the little things, in plump figs, rich greens, and tomatoes that smell of being grown in sunny gardens. It's opportune that the school gave me paid leave, just like they did with the teachers. I thought they would send me to work in the next county while the school was renovated. I guess funding was improving. I cleaned up after dinner, freshened up, and went to bed. Or rather, the couch. I've gotten used to sleeping on it after long shifts, having to waitress for a while after work. Ends required meeting for a time, and I would just crash in the living room. Nowadays, it's more comfortable than ever, like a warm cocoon, ready to wrap me up, safe and sound each night. I finally slept like a baby. Then there was a bark, suddenly, in the middle of the night. Loud, sharp barking of a dog. It sounded so close, I thought he was right in the room with me. A cold chill ran throughout my body from how much it startled me. I felt my heart go cold. Must be what a surge of adrenaline feels like. I would have thought it would be a hot flash, but I felt frozen. Listening more carefully, I realized it was coming from Unit 37. I didn't see anybody move in. Why is there a dog? Am I hearing it wrong? Drowsiness was overtaking me again. Once my body realized it wasn't in imminent danger. Maybe it's for the best, I thought, and laid back down to sleep. It was a sunny August day. I've gone to feed the ducks at the park pond. It was only 10 a.m., but the heat was already scorching. Right at the entrance of my old, derelict-looking building, I've come across them. 2 strong men in white polo shirts, carrying boxes inside. Movers. I didn't speak to my neighbors. Or they didn't speak to me, really. It's useless being friendly to faceless people who look through you. Everyone has enough on their minds to care about anybody else if they can help it. So I don't know anybody here anymore, and I don't mind if it stays like that. At least there was no ruckus. Nobody made problems. I can live with that. As I climbed the stairs to my 4th floor, I saw that my assumption was right. There were a few empty units that anybody could be moving into. Of course, it had to be the Unit 37 right next to me. Then I heard it again. The piercing noise. Barking. Their door was open, the movers going in and out, diligently filling the space, I presume. and my mind seemed to fill just the same. Who were these people? Will the dog bark now, all the time, and disturb my peace? A young woman, maybe late 20s, with wavy brown hair appeared, with the dog on a leash, instructing the movers how she'll be back soon. She gave me a curt nod and swooshed beside me. All right, just the girl. Maybe she's a student or just a young woman finding her feet on her own. If the dog keeps being loud, I'm sure she won't mind if I talk to her about it. It looked like a young dog. It could learn to behave. In the afternoon, everything changed. He came home, too. The boyfriend. I should have supposed that she had a boyfriend. She was young and beautiful. Why wouldn't she? Why he had to be insufferable that I had no answer to. Days that followed past in turmoil. I am aware it sounds like an exaggeration. They had the right to move in there. They had the right to make life noises, to be. I was the one who had to endure it. I heard every step, every clink of the silverware, every bathroom visit, the TV, and the bedroom. And most of all, the arguments. I had the urge to go to the hardware store and ask to have my walls insulated. I think I could even afford it, but I kept thinking it would be too extreme. They were just a messy young couple. Nobody is perfect. I just wish I didn't have to witness it. On top of everything, it was the dog. If it wasn't for the dog, I think I could have gotten used to the other noises. But the damn animal barked all day and all night. Not all the time, obviously. Just enough to constantly remind you he was there. That they were there. What bothered me the most is that nobody seemed to care at all. As if nobody else in the entire 5-story building with over 30 units could hear him, except me. Did nobody else wake up at 3 a.m. each night when the damn thing shouted? That's how it sounded like, as if he was shouting at someone. Sometimes I had a feeling he was angry at the boyfriend, which is when I sympathized with the animal a bit. I, too, sometimes want to bark at the vile man, but who was he mad at in the middle of the night? When he barked at those times, it felt like he was angry at me, and I hated him for it. It was a Thursday. I have just gotten back from my farmer's market stroll. I never knew when they'd be home. They didn't seem to work a normal job. They'd be home at odd hours, and then gone at even stranger ones. Did they even work at all? Who paid for everything? They never seemed to argue about money. I could hear shouting from the corridors, climbing the stairs. The smell of weed was forever permeating the inside of the building. I detested the smell, but it was simply one more thing I just had to accept and learn to live with since they moved in. I've called the police 12 times in total so far. Loud music, partying, drugs, the dog. The police would come. they would get quiet and not answer the door. The police would leave. That was the extent of the law protection this country provided. Not that I put my faith in them, it was simply the only thing I could do. I tried ringing them, hoping to talk. He would curse at me through the door, and I would run back to my apartment. It was cowardly. At least that's how I felt when I did it. I just don't know what else to do. My entire existence was upended by them. They consumed me. My every waking moment, they made me think of themselves. They woke me up to remind me they were there. I had no escape, no peace, and there's always the dog. Sometimes, I think he must feel the same way I do. He too is trapped with them. He can't leave. He can't even pee if they don't feel like getting up and taking him outside. One time, I heard the boyfriend hit him. He must have done his business inside. I pitied him, and I hated him all the same. Today, the dial got turned up a notch. Maybe the pot of gold they've been living off of had run dry. Maybe she cheated. Maybe he had built enough frustration to take it out on her as well. Plates were shattering as I quickly unlocked my door. I dumped my things in the kitchen, and without thinking, on instinct, went to call the police. That's what I was hurrying to do, without even realizing. As it was ringing, I could hear her cry and beg him to stop. Stuff was flying, hitting walls and probably hitting her too. 911, what's your emergency? Yes? Hello? I'm calling about my neighbors. Ah, Ms. Mizzero. Is it the dog again? Excuse me? You are Miss Mizzero at Fair Corner 11, correct? Yes, I have you on record here. You have issues with your neighbors. So I only asked if it was the dog again. Isn't that neat? No, it is not the dog. Well, it's the human dog, that bastard of hers. He's beating her. I can hear it through the wall. He's hurting her. There's stuff flying all right, ma'am. We'll send someone over to check on the situation. There is nothing to check. You need to hurry. He's hurting her. He could kill her. Do you hear me? Yes, ma'am. I've already told you. I've sent someone over. Just sit tight and try not to worry. He hung up the phone. Besides a few doors opening to snoop and promptly closing when their suspicions were confirmed, nobody did anything. He continued to scream and hit her. She continued to sob and mumble. Was she explaining herself? Begging? Soothing him? I couldn't tell. Not by her words, at least. I just knew. I didn't even realize I'd been sitting at my dining table, clutching the phone, listening, that 3 hours went by. I got startled from my stupor by the doorbell outside, and I glanced at the clock, noticing the time. That's how long it took them. They were at their door. I wonder what they'll do if he doesn't open the door. Will they just walk away like they did all the other times? The lock clicked a few times, and I could hear her voice. I knew it to be hoarse, but to a stranger, she sounded normal, chirpy even. "Sorry to bother you, miss. We had a complaint from a neighbor. They heard some shouting. It seemed like they were worried for your safety. Is everything all right? Really? Oh my. Well, I'm fine. I don't know what it could be. Oh my God. Yes. Oh no. I feel so bad. It's probably the dog. My boyfriend came home. He was away for a few days, and Loki got a little too excited. He's been jumping all over the place. So the dog was making the noise? Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I just remembered. He knocked over this vase right when Danny came home. Right, babe? Danny. I've never heard his name before. Doesn't suit him. He looked more like a Brad or Kyle. Hello? I thought it was the takeout. What's happening? I heard him ask the officer. We're just here to make sure everyone is all right here. There were some noise complaints. Oh my God, again? Some people really don't have a life of their own, do they? They all chuckled. The cop. Danny. The girl that was sobbing all afternoon. All laughing. At me. Well, I can see there's no problem here. Just try to keep the noise down at night. And don't let us spoil your afternoon. Have a good one, guys. She lied. What hurt the most was the familiarity of it. I remember lying, too. It seemed that, to the world, my lies were more believable than the truth. She was reminding me, I'm not the only one. They seemed to be more quiet after that. He left and came back late. She only went out briefly to walk the dog. The next day, I woke up with the intense urge to go to the park. I needed to see the pond. I dreamt of the water, the peaceful green vastness. My ducks. Do they remember me? I bet they would like anybody who brings seeds and lettuce, not just bread. I had to go to them. Gathering my things, I went to leave, locking up my door. She just got out too, at the same time. Our eyes locked. She looked swiftly away, but not soon enough. I saw the bruise covered by a thick layer of foundation. It was so ridiculously obvious, it made me think, did people really not see? Or did the covering up signal to them, it's okay, I want you to not care. I want you to not ask me about it. Look away. I couldn't look away, because I now knew. I was sure that cop knew, too. Hello? Oh, hi, she answered reluctantly. Off for a walk? Yes. Sorry, by the way. Loki barks at night. I know. I can't get him to be quiet. He notices the pigeons sleeping on the ledges of windows and goes bonkers. Yes, we can talk about the dog, but we can't talk about the man. I'm going to the pond. I feed the ducks sometimes. Would you like to come with me? Oh, that's so sweet. But no, sadly, as I said, Loki only sees birds as snacks. She looked like a girl when she smiled. I see. I could come to tea later. If you're not busy, I'd be delighted. I remembered I had no tea at home. So instead of the pond, I went to the store to get some. The ducks can wait. I made them no promises. I sat around anxiously, waiting for her. Will we be honest? Will she even show? The doorbell rang. We sat, sipping my new rose and hibiscus tea. She chatted about looking for work. She had a degree in economics, a very male-dominated field. She didn't have any girlfriends. She was isolated. So much so, I gathered, that the loneliness made her befriend her strange, middle-aged neighbor who called the police on her all the time. So, your boyfriend works then? I pried. No, actually. He didn't go to school, so he has some savings from a previous job. We decided to live off of those while I look for a good job. We're thinking maybe when we have a family, I could then stay home and he would go back to work. That way, we both have some free time. You expect to have free time when you have a baby? I blurted. I shouldn't rock the boat. There was another, more pressing matter I wanted her to hear from me. I guess you're right. I hadn't thought of it that way. Well, however it ends up being, we're both unemployed for now. Why isn't he looking for a job, then? Same as you. I told you. He wants to have some free time while he can, to find himself. He did work his butt off for 4 years, you know. He earned it. Do you think he earned the right to do that too? She instinctively covered up her cheek with her hand. You see it? Anyone with a pair of eyes can see it. He's not always like that, you know. He's actually really loving. And funny. He hits you. She paused. Yes. You know you need to leave him. I can't. He pays the rent. You'll find a job. You don't need him. I can't. I held her hand in mine. She jolted at my touch, yanking her hand away, with tears in her eyes, looking almost scared. I'm sorry. I don't mean to upset you. She just stared at me with a strange expression. I know I shouldn't be saying things like that. You don't know me, and you don't need advice from a woman you just met. Why are your hands so cold? It's so warm in here. My hands? I was perplexed by her question. That's what she's focusing on now? The temperature of my hands? The souk stared to bark from the inside of her apartment. She sighed. I should go. I think I even left the window open. One of these days, he'll actually catch a pigeon or something. Our discussion now completely deflected to unimportant matters once again. I had to let it go. All right. Tell Loki I said he needs to be a good boy. I will. The boyfriend must have come home, and the dog got out of their apartment. Before he could catch him, he ran inside my own as she went to leave. Loki, come back. They both went after him. Loki made a straight line for the door of my bedroom, barking insistently and pawing at the doorknob. They almost dragged him away when he made the final jump, opened it, and nosed his way in. He barked and barked and barked. I felt like it lasted for hours. I just kept watching the two, standing at the wide open double door, not turning to me, not calming down the dog. They just stood and stared. I walked slowly closer, with each step being more certain of what I'll find. Peace overcame me. Relief. Joy. I cackled. Full chest, lungs, and heart cackle. It was real. It was. It happened. I did it. They jolted at the sudden noise, finally turning to me. "What did you do?" she stuttered. The two blackened, withered figures could be seen on the once pristine bed. The one on the right wore my favorite outfit, my green dress, and my mother's dragonfly brooch. Loki, no doubt, found his kindred, too, by the closet. I did what I had to do. Finally, for a time, I got to be free. Tears escaped her eyes. "I'm so glad I got to meet you in the end," I told her. "I took my bag. I prepared earlier this morning. Take care." I smiled. "I think I'll go to the pond now." Yes, I'd like that. A blinding light at the end of my nightmare. "Eddie, it's bedtime," Mama would shout at me, shaking me out of my intense focus as I stared at the television set. She would add, "I don't know why I let you watch those shows. You only end up peeing in your bed because of your nightmares." Feeling embarrassed in front of my older sister, I would respond in self-defense. "You would get the heebie-jeebies from Alfred Hitchcock, too. Mama, he is the master and hero of all that is dark and sinister." She would not have any of it from a 10-year-old. "Eddie, enough of your mouth. Get to bed." And that was the end of our discussion until tomorrow night. Reluctantly, I trudged upstairs to my bedroom. I had my normal ritual for going to bed. No, it was not brushing my teeth or washing my face. I would search every corner of my room, looking for suspicious evidence that creatures were patiently hiding for their next meal. Me. Once I canvassed every nook and cranny, I would slither under my covers, imagining that it represented a force field from all supernatural beings and beasts. Feeling some assurance that I was safe, I would drift off to a light sleep. A scraping branch against the house, a creaking pipe, a howling wind, or murmuring voices would be enough to rustle me out of my delicate slumber. I would wake with a start and repeat my ritual. Then, for the rest of the night, fall in and out of sleep. I figured a gruesome beast must have taunted me, because, unfortunately, it was very damp between my sheets when I awoke in the morning. Like any other morning, my sister would offer up her compliments. "You look like hell. Eddie, did you wake up in the jaws of a monster this morning? Did you have to swim out of your bed?" I turned to her with a sardonic grin, saying, "Be careful, or my swamp monster might swim in your bed some night." She looked at me with disgust, saying, "Eddie, you are so revolting." My breakfast then proceeded without interruption. However, this morning would be different. After my sister left for school, my parents decided to have a heart-to-heart talk about my viewing and sleeping habits. They had planned this out well, because no counter-argument I mustered up would change their plans about my immediate future. I understand parents want the best for their children, but I felt they were overstepping their bounds by compelling me to see a psychiatrist about my problem, my incontinence problem. At least, that was what I thought it would be about. The ruse to see a psychiatrist was not for incontinence, but for treatment of my obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, and insomnia. Apparently, my parents were keenly aware of my behavior at night. I was not aware the behaviors manifested themselves during daytime at school. My teachers were decidedly concerned, requesting my parents to intervene and find treatment for my disorders. My psychiatrist was empathetic to my interests and actually encouraged me to continue in my pursuit of thriller, scary, shock movies, games, and activities. He was so impressed that I could nearly remember all of my dreams, especially the nightmares. Nonetheless, he prescribed some medication to help tone down the OCD tendencies. His counseling therapy helped me to focus on self-control and restraint of successive, redundant behaviors. Some medicinal assistance also helped with the quality of my sleep and significantly reduced the incidence of my incontinence and snarky comments from my sister in the mornings. As the years passed, I was better. I felt rejuvenated. I was able to manage my thoughts and actions even when I immersed myself in my hobby of collecting horror movies, stories, and the like. My dreaming remained vivid. Occasionally, I would wake during the night in a cold sweat. No night terrors. No hysterical yelping at night. Some of my dreams I would not remember the next day. Nonetheless, there were a few dreams over the years that plagued me. Most were insanely comically, like an elephant falling out a skyscraper window, landing directly on top of me. Another version had an upright piano doing the same thing. Still other crazy times had killer cows or piranha fish walking on land stalking humans. Nightmares with zombies, ghosts, or ghouls did not upset me. What was extremely disturbing to me was not knowing the source of the terror or evil. One such time, the gruesome source was found in a howling wind, which would transform itself into an array of terrifying beings, creatures, and nondescript things like a smothering ooze. I questioned why this malady of nightmares still plagued me. It was after such reflection on my condition, I decided to make good use of this nocturnal problem. I focused my career on writing horror stories, potential movies, frightening, dramatic plays. I became so good at my skills, I had the audacity to self-publish several stories. To my amazement, a producer in Hollywood got a hold of one of my published stories. Before I realized it, I had a smash horror hit on the big screen and a job creating, writing, and directing all kinds of media horror. I had made it to the big time. Blinding lights flashed all around me as cameras captured my profile at my film premieres. My fiendish ideas were making a huge success and making me rich. I was still actively struggling with my insomnia despite my success. A deep sleep was rare for me. I shrugged it off as a consequence of the pressures of Hollywood and being recently married to a harlot of a wife. I shared with my therapist about how gruesome and sinister my nightmares had become. Yet, I justified those nightmares by citing how they were good fodder for my films and future ventures. I remained undaunted as I counted my gold. My career was literally driving me mad with ghoulish creativity. After all, they were just dreams. Maybe bad ones, but just dreams. They would remain in an ethereal state of mind until I gave them life. Already, the holidays were knocking at the door. In Hollywood, one determines the seasons by the storefront displays on Rodeo Drive and Melrose Avenue. Christmas was a mere month away. I was hoping this year the holidays would provide a peaceful respite from the hustle and bustle of shopping, my dreams, and all else. I was looking forward to the splendor of the season, bringing me some peace and much-needed rest from my constant night terrors. A few friends tried to coax me to attend church services to aid in my recovery. I declined. Churchy stuff was just not on my agenda this or any holiday season. With the house decked out in a few feeble decorations and no annoying carolers singing at my door, I decided to cozy up in my recliner for a peaceful nap, or so I thought. All of the pressure of my job and the haunting dreams had taken its toll on my body. I fell asleep instantly. I am not sure how much time had passed, but I awoke to a strong smell of sulfur, followed with a blast of very hot air. I felt something was wrong as I rose from my recliner. At first, I thought it might be a fire, but my immediate surroundings were strangely altered. Any light in the room quickly faded. It was nearly pitch black. A pinpoint of light emerged from a distance. It grew larger as it advanced toward me. Strangely, the light spoke to me. From the day you entered this world, and now to your grave, your soul has been marked for me. This is the beginning of eternity for you. You are now my child of the darkness. You are now a prisoner in my realm of depravity, defeat, and despair. Your soul is a good fit because of your perverted thoughts and sinister desires of your corrupted heart. I was stunned. I stammered out a question at the light. Who are you? And why are you visiting me? I heard clattering noises and voices in the background. The light said, "I have several names. I am known as the Day Star, the Morning Star, Lucifer." In a bellowing, prideful voice, it said, "I am the Accuser." Instantaneously, a terrifying dragon appeared, hissing fire and sulfurous acid as it spoke these words. "I am Satan, the deceiver and devourer of the whole universe." I was incredulous and could not speak. The dragon continued on. "I am here because it has been your desire to delve deeper into all things purely evil and wicked. Ever since you were a child, you set your things on devilish, depraved images. I filled your mind with them, but you were never satisfied, always wanting more and more to fill up your lustful yearning for the macabre. You became successful at using my craft of malevolence in this world. Now it is time for you to repay me for all that I have given you." I frantically looked for a way out. There was none. With a trembling voice, I said, "I never asked for this. Since I was a child, my nights have been filled with extreme anxiety and insomnia. You made my life a living hell." Satan quickly responded, "My boy, my foolish boy, that is exactly the point. Your fascination with wickedness and death have preoccupied your mind through your entire pitiful life. I just gave you what you wanted. A living hell. You devalue human life with wretchedness and contempt by the monstrosities you have created. That is what your heart desires." Satan chuckled through his explanation. He showed me a vision of human faces etched in despair. I heard voices crying out in blood-curdling wailing. There was incessant gnashing of teeth. Flames engulfed the disembodied faces. Roaring conflagrations of intense fire and heat spewed from the vision, causing me to fall back. I was mortified and overcome with great fear. Satan spoke again with confidence. "You are trapped by your earthly desires. There is no way out. My final gift is for you to capture the misery, hopelessness, and utter terror of hell in your next earthly venture. After that, your soul belongs to me in the everlasting fires of hell." In protest, I declared, "Oh my God in heaven, no way on God's green earth do I plan to spend eternity with you, you ghastly vermin of mankind." At the mention of God, Satan cringed. He vehemently argued, "I took care of him 2,000 years ago. I made sure he was dead, this self-proclaimed prophet, called the Christ, who called himself God. He healed pathetic people, but he could not save himself from a cross of death. I won, and now I am the victor of everything. My realm is full of the shadowy souls of despicable and evil men and women, believers and non-believers, of this so-called God. I saw in that moment Satan trembling and doubting his words. That lapse gave me a moment to remember something from my childhood and the Christmases I had with my family. My mama would recount the birth of Jesus, the Christ in Bethlehem. She reminded me of my baptism of water into the community of believers in Christ. I remembered the peace and joy I received. That was a time when I had no nightmares, no night terrors. These memories made me feel stronger. In my boldness, being filled with the Spirit, I proclaimed to Satan, regardless of my sordid past and sinful actions, you, Satan, have no claim on my soul. Your lies and indictments are not binding, because Jesus, the Christ, came to your insidious place to proclaim his victory over you. Where, O death, is your victory? O death, where is your sting? Satan cowered at my words. I continued with amazing fortitude. I believe in God the Father, maker of heaven and earth. I believe in Jesus, the Christ who suffered, died, and rose again for my sins. You, Satan, are a liar, and the truth is not in you. You are damned, but I am not, because the Christ has forgiven me of my iniquities and wretchedness. The Christ is my way out of this nightmare. Begone, Satan, in the name of Jesus. A thunderous rage poured out like earthquakes, volcanoes and raging storms simultaneously erupting from the evil one. Instantly, Satan departed, and this frightening nightmare ended. In his wake, a blinding light emerged. I peered at the light. I saw a star hovering above a man and woman, gathered at a crib of straw. In that crib, I saw a baby wrapped in cloth, and the space around me was illuminated with an incredible light. A great peace descended upon me, releasing me of my terrorizing night afflictions. May your dreams be filled with joy and peace of the baby whose dream became reality to save man from himself. There were shepherds living out in the fields nearby. It was night, and they were taking care of their sheep. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. They were terrified, but the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news. It will bring great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. Here is how you will know I am telling you the truth. You will find a baby wrapped in strips of cloth and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a large group of angels from heaven also appeared. They were praising God. They said, "May glory be given to God in the highest heaven, and may peace be given to those he is pleased with on earth." Man to monster, the bite mark upon my shin shined red with a purple hue, outlining the teeth indentations. "No, no, George, please, no!" wailed my wife. Her knees buckled. slamming against the wooden floor of the abandoned, looted home we had found short reprieve in God knows where, Michigan. My children, Meryl and Leo, stood behind their distraught mother. By the looks on their faces, they had not yet comprehended the severity of my situation. It had been a week and a half since the outbreak. A lab test that had gone awry. The U.S. military thought they had created a superhuman drug, one that overrode the humanistic qualities of pain, reservations, fear, and the consequence of reckless abandonment. Simultaneously, this drug also heightened testosterone and adrenaline levels beyond their standard yield. The intent was, upon inoculation of the said drug, the soldier, Marine, fighter pilot, policeman, fireman, and any other form of military and first responder personnel necessary for the safety and protection of the populace would become fearless machines that could enter any burning building, gunfight, and combat zone with the sole intention of completing their objective without the inhibitions of the typical human. One would think this was the beginning of creating the most fearless corps of men and women the world had ever seen. From my understanding, the testing transpired in a Northern Californian military installation. Volunteers of the U.S. Armed Forces participated in the experimentation with the promise of hefty compensation. At first, it seemed a success. News reports stated that the super soldier had been produced, stoking courage in our countrymen and fear in our enemies. Footage circulating the interwebs showed army men stepping through thick, boarded walls, swarming and cutting down artificial targets with precision and lethality, scaling walls at lightning-fast speed, and performing deftly feats on land, air, and sea. The Pentagon was still patting itself on the back when one of the test subjects had ravaged and gored his wife, child, and house pet. Not only that, another was at a house party and had cut, bit, and shredded some of the other party-goers with their bare hands. Worse, those affected by these sudden acts of acute violence had taken on the monstrous nature as well. The captured affected, now infected, were held against their will by scientists of the highest order. These experts revealed the drug's design had gone rogue, what best could be described as a feedback loop. The effects that made the drug successful had become indefatigable. The bodies of those with the drug in their bloodstream were unable to shake its domineering effects. It seemed to feed itself, making the subjects more fearless and tolerant of pain. Moreover, its psychosis-altering capabilities had reached levels of deadly proportions. A ravenous desire to bite, claw, and eat raw flesh had become the deity of their souls and singular desire. They had become what we had called, in sci-fi, fiction lore, and literary horror, now a reality. Zombies. when our little suburban outpost in Lansing had become overrun by these zombies, Weezo, like millions of others across the country, made a break for safety. As to where that was, we did not know. But we knew to pack our things and take off in the minivan. However, that did not last long, as traffic and the onslaught of the infected, stagnated vehicular mobility we took on foot, crossing medians, abandoned interstates, through woods and fields, and anywhere where the screams of victims and wretched cries of monsters had subsided. Government proclamations were useless. Assuring us to stay in our houses until protection arrived was akin to waiting in a burning house until rain clouds arrived. To top it all off, there was not even a whisper of a cure. We were at the mercy of this infernal contagion. The zombies finally forced us out of a vacant barn we had stayed in for a few days. I hot-wired an old pickup truck in a nearby garage and drove on some back roads until we encountered an abandoned neighborhood. With a machete I had collected in my hand, I had cut down all opposition in our way. A fully infected zombie, which still had the rigors of a merciless beast, also had severely debilitated coordination and reaction. My machete swiped and sliced through the susceptible flesh of the infected. A mere sidestep and a high school level trained baseball swing proved sufficient. All seemed manageable, that is, until I passed a half-chewed corpse, severed by what appeared to be the teeth marks of a chainsaw. As I motioned for my family to hurry over an HVAC unit, and through a busted-out living room window, the halved corpse snatched me by the ankle. With its clammy, gray hand, it yanked itself towards my leg and clamped its maw around my shin. I stifled my cry and hacked it away until it fell still. My wife, Erin, noticing the struggle, immediately turned her eyes toward the wound as I entered the abode, leading us to our current predicament. She groaned and cried, knowing what was in store for me, for us. I could not help but try to comfort her. I bent down to collect her. "No!" she shrieked, slapping my hand away. A sudden life beheld her, for she scuttled to our children and held them in her arms. A darkened complexion formed on her face. She snatched the machete and extended its edge toward me. My initial reaction was to reprimand her for the hurt. But conceding doom was at my door, it gave me hope. For even if the slightest bit of my bodily fluids entered her bloodstream, our children could fall too, devoured by filicidal mania. If my wife were willing to reject her husband, one she had been lovingly married to for nearly a decade, with such sharp rebuke, she must certainly have the perseverance to lead 2 of our 4 surviving children. My children, Meryl and Leo, had not fully understood the dystopian future before them. At the formative ages of 8 and 6, respectively, they knew something was unnatural about this new reign of terror. They had seen their elder brother and sister ripped to pieces, protecting them from the infected pursuants. When I found time to weep for my eviscerated firstborns, I did so liberally, but not in front of them. I will join them shortly, but I must put my mortal family in order first. Honey, Meryl, Leo, I said, kneeling to meet their eye level. Yes, Daddy, uttered Meryl. She had her chin against her chest, and it quivered. That's a good girl, I said. I want you to. A sudden pang shot through me. The side of my neck tightened, and my lower jaw protruded out, baring my lower row of teeth. The children gasped. My wife pulled them close to her and backed away from me. Back! I shouted. Get back! I was not sure how the transition would consume me, but I had certainly felt it. A raging swell of power spread within me. It was like a high, unlike anything I had experienced before. My strength seemed to surge. The forces of gravity were effectless. A ludicrous idea came over me that I could easily lift a car or thrust my knee through the wall. Subsequently, a craving for flesh had come. My mind started to obsess over the notion of sinking my teeth into a sumptuous piece of raw chicken. I thought about how my teeth would break the surface, diving into its tender structure and tearing it and consuming it, slaking my hunger. I slid my tongue between my molars to replicate the sensation. Then my senses returned. I must have fallen into a fit, for my family gaped at me with fretful eyes. I was on my side in a pool of sweat. I didn't move. If I could lie still and slow my heart rate, perhaps the effects of the bite would curb, leaving my family more time to flee so they could remember me before I succumbed. Sweetheart, I grunted. A pain was forming deep within the pit of my stomach. I want you to get to my parents. My wife, clutching our children, replied with a tear-filled cry. Why? Their cabin in Barreton. They have guns, land. It's isolated. The pain had reached an unruly state. My back arched, my limbs tightened, and I began to writhe and twist upon the ground violently. I froze, paralyzed by the locking measures of my muscles. I saw my son's leg, supple and bare, peek out from behind his mother. It was then that a sudden predatory inhabitant inside me overpowered my sensibilities. My fingers dug into the floor. I let out a roar, drool trailing from my jowls, and scampered toward my terrified family, ready to tear the flesh from their hides. Run, kids, run, my wife cried. As my family started to flee, the fear of loss, my human quality, supplanted the monster that had hijacked my mind. My body eased, and I slumped again. "Aaron!" I shouted. She and my children were near the end of the hall. They turned around. I was dizzy, exhausted, and on the brink of fainting, for my body could not handle the sudden rise of the drug's power. What is it?" she shouted through sobs. My head rolled to its side. I took in the sight of the beautiful family I had, the woman I had vowed to, the son and daughter I had watched grow and play, the family I carried in my heart. "Take care. I love you." Her chin quivered. "I love you too," she said. I breathed a sigh of release. "Go!" I shouted. "Get out of here!" My wife nodded and sped around the corner. When the patters of their feet were out of earshot, I was at peace. The mental guards laid down their defenses, and the disease scaled the ramparts, displacing the man I was and becoming the monster I had feared. I let out a horrid, blood-fueled screech as I rose from the floor, tearing my clothes from my body. It was rage. It was fury. It was the lust to kill and taste the living. A waft of the odors left by my family slithered up my nostrils. I inhaled their flavor, turned towards the hall, and sped after them. The hunt was on.